The clip you are seeing is not just simulacrum baked, and you are actually seeing 100 to 200 million damage with Xaku using the nerf slam meta. So, is the slam meta actually back? Well, kind of. I run to this insanity when I was experimenting stuff with Xaku's new augment, and it turns out that the Warframe's abilities has some weird synergy with slam attacks right now. Well, we all know that Xata's Whisper plus Slam is meta in the past, but this is different, as after the nerf to the Nira set damage, there's no way you can pull off 100 to 200 million damage using the usual Slam combo. Before we continue, I humbly ask for your support by liking the video and subscribing for more informative content like this. Thank you so much, and now, let's continue this guide. So at first, I thought this was a crazy interaction with Xaku's new augment called Untime Rift, but it's not, and it's simpler than it looks. Now, you see me running Evade in the setup. Initially, I am using a combination of secondary with Untime Rift, and by the way, we will discuss Untime Rift later, which also got some crazy combo despite some players saying that it's shit. For now, I want to focus on this slam combo. So, I was leveling my Xaku in Alara Jupiter using a secondary, and keeping the Warframe alive with Evade. Then, I suddenly have that urge to try out Slam, because one brain cell of mine told me to put Nira Hatred on Xaku's built-in D-polarity, so I could have more duration plus health without adding more Forma. It's crazy because with one slam of the Sancti Magistar, I saw 100 to 200 million void damage against Corpus enemies. And get this, Evade seems to proc in every slam kill I do, which makes it a perfect combo for survivability and kill speed. I slam and deal millions of damage, then the invisibility of Evade resets and keeps me alive for the whole duration of the mission. But here's the catch, it doesn't work every time though. I decided to try it on other tile set, like Conjunction Survival, and even on infested tile set, like the Warframe 1999 content. However, it seems that the void damage wasn't there. Like I have said, I thought it was from the Untime augment, but it seems like this weird interaction is while using stealth with Xata's Whisper active. Basically, this doesn't just work with Xaku, but remember that you can subsume Xata's Whisper on your favorite Warframes, and you can use this with invisibility frames, like Loki. The damage becomes ballistic, and close to what we get with Xaku, but they are kind different, since with the new augment, the Void proc gets 2.25 times more damage, which gives us that 200 million damage that you saw earlier on the video. But again, it's not working on other tile set, and I found out that those huge damage bursts are only working against MOAs in the game. If you use slam attacks on those bipedal Corpus units, then it will deal massive void damage to them. But with other enemies, although the damage scale, especially with the new augment, it's nothing compared to the damage you deal with MOAs. If you would like to try this out, then here's the 2 Forma build I'm using against Corpus enemies using the slam attack. Like I have said, I added the Untime Rift for that extra void vulnerability that further pushes the damage to 200 million. The good thing about this augment is it makes Xaku's 4th skill reliable in terms of debuffing enemies without going for more power strength. Xaku is one of those Warframes that are tight when it comes to modding, so it's really hard sometimes to fill in all the necessary mods. But with Untime Rift, you don't need too much power strength in your build. Just 200% would do, and you will inflict an insane 95% slow to enemies, which makes them close to being frozen, and a decent 2.25 times void damage multiplier, which is great for your grasp of lock and broken with guns. And by the way, we are not including the extra void damage buff coming from Xata's Whisper here. Now, for the Sancti Magistar build, I'm using these perks of the Incarnon Melee's evolution. It's really the usual perk for slam builds, and in terms of the build, it's the usual heavy slam build also, that focuses on initial combo, critical, and raw damage from slam attacks. So, if you saw a Void Fissure mission in any of the Corpus Gas City tile set, then try and run it with this setup and enjoy the old slam meta while it lasts. Because honestly, I think there's some spaghetti coding involved on this one, and it will get fixed eventually. Okay, now we are done with the first part of the video. Let's proceed to the second part, which is how to make the new Untime Rift augment legally broken for Xaku. What this augment does is form a rift that connects those enemies affected by Void status proc. When enemies get affected by the augment, then they get 2.25 more damage vulnerability from Void damage and 95% slow when affected by Xaku's 4th skill. Now, a lot of players are saying that this is a stupid augment, as why would you even use this when you can just aim and shoot enemies? It's true when you are doing the normal star chart and the normal steel path, wherein you fight level 300 and below enemies. Honestly, the debuff from the regular Vast Untime and the Void damage buff you receive from Xata's Whisper is enough, but this augment really shines against tough enemies, especially at level cap. 95% slow is like a total hinder effect, and the extra vulnerability is huge. Also, the duration of the rift and as well as its range scales with mods, which can be perfectly paired with your Grasp of Lock and Gaze abilities. The only downside though is that Void status procs don't work with your stolen guns. Grasp of Lock only deals Void damage and not the status proc, which is kind of weird, and I think the augment would be so much better when their second skill can apply Void status procs. So basically, you are stuck with Xata's Whisper to Infuser Void in your guns. But there's another method without using Xata's Whisper, and that is by using your Sentinel to apply Void status proc. I know you're a bit confused, as Xata's Whisper is just a self buff and doesn't apply to allies, but there's a mod called Astral Bond that allows you to apply Void status proc to enemies without using Xata's Whisper. Okay, this is how it works. First, you will need to put Astral Bond in your Sentinel. I strongly recommend Diriga since this Sentinel is the best when it comes to priming enemies thanks to its Arc Coil mod. Also, equip the Manifold Bond as we will be using this to lower the cooldown of Arc Coil so that Diriga will constantly apply the Void status proc. Finally, use a Sentinel weapon of your choice. For me, it's always the Verglas, but it could be anything. And in case, I have modded this Sentinel weapon with at least 3 element, so that aside from Void, it will apply the 3 element when Arc Coil proc, and when we kill the enemy, it will lower the cooldown of Arc Coil thanks to Manifold Bond. Because of this, we will have an endless loop of applying elemental status and Void, and activating the Untime Rift most of the time without the need of Xata's Whisper. This combo is really good with a Nourish build, like what I do in my past Xaku builds. The thing is, Nourish doesn't just take care of your energy, but it also grants that viral status to your Sentinel, which will stack the max debuff fast, increasing the damage you deal with your Grasp of Lock. In the past, I pair this with Gaze Defense Strip with 200% power strength, and with the Untime Rift available right now, your stolen guns will deal more damage thanks to the added Void damage vulnerability. But honestly, I get really bored with my walking aimbot Xaku and need to try something else with this combo. This is why, instead of Grasp of Lock, I subsume Evade on this slot and create a good weapon platform build for the Warframe with the new augment. I really love Evade, as in survival missions. You can keep this up as long as you are killing enemies with headshots, and we can easily do this right now with Xaku's Untime Rift augment. Also, Xata's Whisper as a mini-magnetize skill does help in getting those headshot kills. When you aim near the head of enemies, you will eventually proc the mini-magnetize effect of Xata's Whisper. This will create another hit instance, and with the increased damage for Xaku, Evade becomes a very reliable skill for survivability, as you'll be landing those headshot kills easily. If you want to try it to the extreme, then I strongly recommend the synergy of Akarius Prime. The good thing about this secondary is that it doesn't just do crazy area damage, but it actually helps spread the Void status proc also because of those crazy explosions. Not to mention that you can also pair this with Arcane Pistolier, and if that headshot lands a kill, then the gun becomes a mini bombing turret that wipes a group of enemies fast. But be warned though, Akarius Prime has knockdowns, so best equip your Xaku with primed sure-footed while using this combo. Another thing to note is that this is also great with Knell Prime, Incarnon, Dual Toxocyst, or even the Sentient Surge Ocucor. By the way, all these builds for the weapons will be shown afterwards. feel free to check out the chapters below to jump into those later. The good thing about a weapon platform build for Xaku is it's pretty chill, as you just need a weapon and activate Xata's Whisper to proc the Void status effect and get the additional boost from the Untime Rift augment. So far, I can say that Untime Rift is really great for Xaku, especially that the other augment that he has is a little disappointing. I hope this video helps, and if does, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.